You've been asking, maybe without even realizing it. With your thoughts, your prayers, your late-night wondering. You've whispered into the dark, hoping that something, someone, might hear you. You've asked for peace, for answers, for change. You've visualized, you've journaled, you've sent out your wishes like stars thrown across the sky. But if you've ever felt like you're not being heard, maybe it's because the universe doesn't respond to words the way we expect it to. It doesn't hear sentences, or mantras, or even desperation in the same way another person might. The universe doesn't listen to what you say, it listens to what you are. And what you are is not just your voice. It's your energy. Your emotional truth. Your quiet beliefs when no one is watching. The universe doesn't give us what we ask for, it reflects back what we've become. It mirrors the tone of our being, not the wording of our desire. If there's frustration, it echoes more resistance. If there's fear, it reflects uncertainty. If there's doubt, it will return the silence of unanswered questions. Not as punishment, but as alignment. So often, we think we're being ignored. But the truth is more subtle, we're being reflected. And sometimes, what comes back to us isn't what we want, but what we unconsciously expect. What we carry within becomes the frequency we live by. And that frequency becomes our dialogue with the universe, whether we're speaking or not. The question isn't why isn't the universe listening? The question is, what am I actually saying, just by being who I am? Desire is powerful. It moves us, shapes us, pulls us forward. But desire also has a shadow, one we don't often see. When we say we want something, deeply, urgently, we're often speaking from a place of separation. A quiet belief that says, I don't have it yet. And that belief, that subtle frequency of lack, is what the universe hears most clearly. You can ask for love, but if deep down you feel unworthy of it, the echo won't bring connection, but more loneliness. You can ask for abundance, but if fear still drives your thoughts, if scarcity still lives in your body, the signal you're sending is not trust, it's tension. This is why people say they're manifesting, visualizing, affirming, but nothing happens. It's not because they're doing it wrong. It's because their energy and identity are still anchored in the version of themselves who believes they don't have it. What you want isn't always what you're being. And what you're being is what's reflected back to you. You see, the universe doesn't speak English or any language we know. It responds to frequency. It listens to embodiment. And this is why transformation doesn't begin with asking harder, it begins with becoming different. Who are you when no one's watching? What thoughts do you revisit when you're alone? What emotional baseline do you return to, over and over again? That's your true vibration. That's the story the universe is picking up, even when you're trying to override it with hopeful thoughts. So if you want love, become love in small moments. If you want peace, choose stillness, even when it's hard. If you want change, shift the identity that's waiting for the outside world to catch up. Because it's not the universe that needs to move, it's you. Quietly, gently, from the inside out. Think about the patterns in your life. The relationships you attract. The timing of things. The unexpected doors that open, or the ones that never seem to. What if none of it is random? What if the world is not reacting to your effort, but to your energy? Over and over again, we find ourselves in familiar loops, falling for the same types of people, running into the same conflicts, getting stuck at the same level. And often, we call it fate. Or bad luck. Or just how life is. But what if it's not life doing it to you? What if it's you, unconsciously repeating what you believe you're worthy of? If deep down you believe love must come with pain, you will find someone to fulfill that prophecy. If you carry the idea that success must be hard and full of struggle, you'll unconsciously push ease away when it knocks on your door. If you believe things never last, you may find yourself sabotaging the very stability you crave. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you can shift the frequency. And shifting doesn't happen all at once. It begins in the tiniest places. In how you speak to yourself. In how you breathe through discomfort. In what you allow into your space, and what you gently release. If you wake up every day and carry the weight of who you used to be, the version of you who doubted, feared, or shrank, then you're telling the universe you're still living in that old story. But what happens when you try something different? Not louder. Not faster. Just different. What happens when you start choosing thoughts that support peace rather than panic? What happens when you soften your body instead of bracing for pain? What happens when you show up as if you're already safe, already whole, not because you're pretending, but because you're choosing to believe it's possible? The universe responds to that. Not with immediate lightning bolts or fireworks, but with the gentle turning of the tide. A conversation that shifts. An opportunity you used to miss. A quiet knowing that you don't have to chase anymore. Because when your energy shifts, your world starts to rearrange itself around the new version of you. Not because you're forcing change, but because you've become the kind of person who invites it in. And from that place, the calm, steady, real place, what you once begged for becomes what you naturally receive. When you begin to shift your internal state, something subtle begins to happen. You stop needing everything to move quickly. You stop chasing after signs, or obsessing over whether the universe is answering you fast enough. You begin to trust that things unfold on a deeper rhythm, one that isn't always visible, but is always alive. You'll notice that life starts to feel quieter. Not empty, just less chaotic. The noise begins to soften. The urgency begins to dissolve. And in its place, you might feel something new. Not excitement. Not certainty. But space. Spaciousness in your mind. In your chest. In your choices. That's when you'll know you're no longer begging the universe to change. You've changed. And now, you're letting the universe respond. Sometimes, the answers you were searching for show up in ways you didn't expect. Not as words, but as clarity. Not as things, but as alignment. A conversation that suddenly feels different. A moment that feels like déjà vu. An ease that appears where stress used to live. These are not accidents. They are reflections, not of your effort, but of your energy. So stop trying to force the universe to hear you through louder requests. Whisper through your being instead. Whisper through your trust. Through the way you hold yourself even when you're uncertain. Through the way you breathe, slowly and deeply, when the world tries to rush you. Sometimes, the most powerful signal you can send is silence. Not the silence of resignation, but the silence of knowing. The silence that says, I am already aligned. I am already whole. I no longer need to chase what's meant for me, because I've become the kind of person it naturally comes to. And maybe, just maybe, that's what the universe was waiting for all along, not your words, but your return to yourself. So tonight, stop asking. Stop reaching. Just rest. Let your breath become your prayer. Let your stillness become your signal. And trust, softly, silently, that the universe is already listening.